Imagine a city that shimmered under the desert sun. This was Babylon, the crown jewel of ancient Mesopotamia. Known for its towering walls and magnificent architecture, Babylon was a city of grandeur and power. At its heart stood the majestic palace of Nebuchadnezzar, a testament to the king's ambition and the city's wealth. But Babylon was more than just a city of dazzling beauty. It was a center of culture and learning. The Babylonians were renowned astronomers and mathematicians, their knowledge shaping the ancient world. It was into this world, a world of both splendor and spiritual darkness, that a young man named Daniel and his companions were thrust. Nebuchadnezzar II, the king of Babylon, was a force to be reckoned with. A brilliant military strategist, he had expanded the Babylonian Empire to encompass much of the ancient Near East. His reign was marked by both conquest and cultural achievement. He rebuilt Babylon, making it the envy of the ancient world, its splendor a testament to his power and ambition. Yet Nebuchadnezzar was also known for his ruthlessness. To challenge his authority was to invite swift and often brutal retribution. In the year 605 BC, the tranquility of Jerusalem was shattered. Nebuchadnezzar, the ambitious king of Babylon, had set his sights on the kingdom of Judah. His armies swept across the land, leaving a trail of destruction in their wake. The city of Jerusalem, once a beacon of hope, fell under siege. For the inhabitants of Jerusalem, it was a time of terror and despair. Among those caught in the ravages of war were 4 young men: Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. They were of noble birth, raised in the shadow of the temple, their lives steeped in the laws and traditions of their faith. These young men, barely more than boys, were torn from their families and marched hundreds of miles across the unforgiving desert to Babylon. Even in captivity, Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah refused to be defined by their circumstances. They carried themselves with dignity and grace, their faith in God a beacon of hope in a foreign land. Their captors, recognizing their intelligence and potential, selected them to serve in the royal court. These young men were subjected to a rigorous education. They excelled in their studies, their natural abilities sharpened by their determination to succeed. Yet, amidst the splendor and sophistication of the Babylonian court, they never forgot who they were and where they came from. They clung to their faith, finding solace and strength in the words of their ancestors. Their unwavering faith was a testament to the power of belief to overcome even the most daunting obstacles. Life in the Babylonian court was a whirlwind of luxury and intrigue. King Nebuchadnezzar ordered that Daniel and his companions be provided with the finest food and wine from the royal table. But there was a problem. The food and wine offered to them had been dedicated to Babylonian gods, a practice strictly forbidden by their Jewish faith. Daniel, ever resourceful and diplomatic, approached the official in charge of their welfare. He requested that they be given only vegetables to eat and water to drink, citing their religious convictions. Daniel and his friends now faced a critical choice: comply with the king's decree and betray their faith, or stand firm in their beliefs and risk the consequences. The weight of the situation pressed heavily upon Daniel and his friends. They found themselves caught between obedience to their earthly king and faithfulness to their God. To partake in the rich delicacies offered by Nebuchadnezzar would be to violate their deepest convictions. Yet, to refuse the king's generosity was a risky proposition. Daniel said, "Please test your servants for 10 days, give us nothing but vegetables to eat and water to drink. Then compare our appearance with that of the young men who eat the royal food, and treat your servants in accordance with what you see." Daniel's request, though unusual, was presented with such respect and sincerity that the official found himself inexplicably compelled to grant it. He agreed to Daniel's proposal, setting the stage for a remarkable demonstration of faith and divine provision. The 10-day trial commenced. While the other young men in the king's training program feasted on the rich delicacies from the royal table, Daniel and his friends faithfully adhered to their simple diet of vegetables and water. They trusted that God would honor their commitment to Him, even in this foreign land. Each day they gathered in prayer, seeking strength and encouragement from God. They reminded themselves of His promises, His faithfulness to those who remain true to Him. God, in His infinite mercy and faithfulness, did not disappoint them. He honored their obedience, their willingness to stand firm in their convictions. As the days turned into nights, a remarkable transformation took place. The 10th day arrived and the appointed official came to inspect the young men. He had expected to find Daniel and his companions weak, pale, and perhaps even ill. To his astonishment, he found the opposite. Daniel and his friends stood before him, not only in good health, but radiating a vibrancy and vitality that surpassed even those who had indulged in the royal delicacies. Their skin glowed, their eyes sparkled with intelligence, and their bodies moved with an energy that belied their simple diet. Daniel, with quiet confidence, explained that their health was not due to any merit of their own, but to the faithfulness of their God who had honored their obedience. The official, though unfamiliar with the God of Daniel, could not deny the evidence before his eyes. Impressed by their physical health and mental acuity, the official relented and agreed to let Daniel and his friends continue their simple diet. He recognized that their commitment to their God, far from being a sign of weakness, was a source of their strength and resilience. News of this unusual occurrence spread throughout the royal court, reaching the ears of King Nebuchadnezzar himself. Intrigued by these young men who dared to defy convention and remain true to their beliefs, he summoned them to his presence. Daniel and his friends faced the king with the same quiet confidence and unwavering faith they had displayed throughout their ordeal. Their courage, their integrity, and their unwavering commitment to their God made a profound impact on the Babylonian court. King Nebuchadnezzar, despite his outward confidence and absolute power, harbored a secret fear. He had been troubled by a dream so vivid, so unsettling, that it robbed him of sleep and filled his days with dread. He summoned his wise men, his sorcerers, his astrologers, all those who claimed to interpret dreams and unravel the mysteries of the heavens. He demanded that they reveal the meaning of his dream to calm his troubled spirit and restore his peace of mind. But his advisors, for all their boasted wisdom and arcane knowledge, were powerless to help him. Nebuchadnezzar demanded more. He wanted them to first tell him the dream itself, something he believed only a true seer could do. This impossible task filled them with fear, knowing that their failure would incur the king's wrath. Word of the king's dilemma reached Daniel and his friends. Daniel, undeterred by the imminent threat, approached Arioch, the captain of the king's guard.
He asked for time to interpret the king's dream, believing that God, who had protected them thus far, would grant him the wisdom to unravel this mystery. Arioch, though initially skeptical, was moved by Daniel's courage and conviction. He agreed to arrange an audience with Nebuchadnezzar, hoping against hope that Daniel could appease the king's anger and prevent a senseless massacre. That night, Daniel and his friends gathered in prayer. They sought God's guidance, his wisdom, his protection. God, in his infinite mercy, answered their prayer. He revealed to Daniel in a vision the content and the meaning of Nebuchadnezzar's dream.
After Daniel interpreted King Nebuchadnezzar's dream, the king made Daniel ruler over the entire province of Babylon and placed him in charge of all its wise men. However, Daniel's friends, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, faced a severe test of their faith. The king erected a massive golden statue and commanded everyone to bow down and worship it. Those who refused would be thrown into a blazing furnace. Despite the threat, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego stood firm in their faith and refused to worship the statue. Nebuchadnezzar, enraged by their defiance, ordered the furnace to be heated 7 times hotter than usual. The flames, leaping high into the air, radiated an intense heat that caused those nearby to recoil in fear. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, their hands bound, were thrown into the heart of the inferno. The guards who carried out the king's orders were themselves consumed by the flames, while the 3 young men fell into the heart of the furnace. Nebuchadnezzar, his eyes fixed on the fiery furnace, let out a gasp of astonishment. Instead, he saw 4 figures walking calmly amidst the fire, untouched by the flames. The 4th figure, Nebuchadnezzar realized with a mixture of awe and terror, was like no man he had ever seen. This figure, radiating a brilliant light, was none other than an angel, a messenger from the one true God, sent to protect his faithful servants from the flames. Nebuchadnezzar, shaken to his core, called out to the 3 young men,
"Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, servants of the Most High God, come out, come here."
His voice, usually commanding and authoritative, now trembled with a mixture of fear and reverence. The three young men emerged from the furnace unharmed, their clothes and hair untouched by the flames, their faces radiating the peace of God. The crowd gasped, their disbelief palpable. Even the king's advisors, accustomed to the strange and the inexplicable, were dumbstruck by this display of divine intervention. Nebuchadnezzar, humbled and awestruck, fell to his knees before them. He had witnessed firsthand the power of the God they served, a God who could deliver his followers from the very jaws of death. He issued a decree, proclaiming that anyone who spoke against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego would be put to death. The crowd, following the king's example, prostrated themselves before the three young men. The fiery furnace, meant to be a symbol of Nebuchadnezzar's power and their destruction, had become a testament to the power of faith and the faithfulness of the one true God. It was a turning point in the story of Daniel and his friends, a moment when their faith, tested in the most extreme way, emerged triumphant, their God glorified in the eyes of their captors. Years had passed since the fiery furnace had revealed the power of the Hebrew God to Nebuchadnezzar. The king, though outwardly acknowledging the might of Daniel's God, still struggled with pride and a sense of his own importance. He had rebuilt Babylon into a city of unparalleled splendor, its grandeur a testament to his ambition and power. Yet a shadow lurked at the edge of his thoughts, a nagging unease that whispered of a power greater than his own.
One night, as the king lay in his royal bed, a dream unlike any other disturbed his sleep. This dream, more vivid and terrifying than the last, filled him with a sense of impending doom. He saw a mighty tree, its branches reaching towards the heavens, its leaves lush and green, providing shade for all creatures. Yet as he watched, a voice from heaven commanded the tree to be chopped down, its trunk stripped bare, leaving only a stump bound with iron and bronze.
He woke with a start, his heart pounding in his chest, the remnants of the dream clinging to him like a shroud. The dream was more than a mere nightmare. It was a premonition, a warning of some impending disaster. Fear, a sensation alien to the mighty king, gripped his heart. He needed answers, and he knew just the man to ask. Once again, Daniel was summoned to the king's presence. Nebuchadnezzar, his face etched with anxiety, recounted the dream in detail, his voice trembling with a mixture of fear and hope. He knew that Daniel, with his connection to the divine, held the key to understanding this unsettling vision.
Daniel listened intently, his expression growing somber as the king spoke. He recognized the symbolism of the dream, the mighty tree representing Nebuchadnezzar himself, the ruler of a vast and powerful empire. The command to cut down the tree, to strip it bare and leave it bound in the wilderness, spoke of a coming judgment, a time of humiliation and loss.
With a heavy heart, Daniel revealed the interpretation to the king. He explained that Nebuchadnezzar would be driven from his throne, his kingdom taken from him. He would live as a wild animal, his mind ravaged, his humanity stripped away, until he acknowledged that the Most High God ruled over the kingdoms of men and gave them to whomever he pleased.
Yet, Daniel's message was not one of despair. He also spoke of God's mercy, of a time of restoration when Nebuchadnezzar, having learned humility and recognizing the sovereignty of God, would be restored to his throne, his sanity returned, his kingdom even greater than before. The dream, a warning of judgment, also held the promise of redemption.
Nebuchadnezzar, though shaken by Daniel's interpretation, couldn't fully comprehend such a drastic turn of events.
Is this not the great Babylon I have built by my mighty power and for the glory of my majesty?
His words were cut short. A voice boomed from heaven, echoing Daniel's prophecy. In an instant, Nebuchadnezzar's world was turned upside down. He was driven from his throne, his mind unraveling, his humanity stripped away. He lifted his eyes to heaven, recognizing the sovereignty of the Most High God. His reason returned, his kingdom restored, his reign even greater than before. Daniel's story, unfolding against the backdrop of a mighty empire, reminds us that God is always in control. From the young captive facing the king's delicacies to the triumphant survivor emerging from the fiery furnace, Daniel's life testifies to the unwavering faithfulness of God. The story of Daniel, though set in a distant time and place, speaks to us today. It reminds us that we too may face trials and temptations, but Daniel's example encourages us to stand firm, knowing that God is with us. The world may try to mold us into its image, but we are called to be different, to live lives of integrity and purpose. Let Daniel's story inspire us to live with purpose, knowing God is by our side.